I hear go get the money, so I go get it. Hate means I do something right, so I'ma let him. Yeah, I'ma let him, yeah, I'ma let him. I hit the nail on the head, yeah, I'ma let him. All I hear go get the money, so I go get it. Hate means I do something right, so I'ma let him. Yeah, I'ma let him, yeah, I'ma let him. I hit the nail on the head, yeah, I'ma let him. Early bird go get the worm in the dirt. I could show you what I'm worth, my hands in the dirt. From where they look when you not, a hand in your purse. Hell if you think I'm last, last should be first. Go ahead and go.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Ron.
And we are back today for another recap of Godfather of Harlem. This is season 4, episode 7, titled The Pawn Goes First. But before we get started, please make sure that you subscribe to our channel, like this video, and click that notification bell. Also follow us on our social media. We are on every major platform at the Spot Real Talk. And go ahead and invite your friends and family while you're at it too. You know, we're about to get started on a real good episode. So you might want to go ahead and let everybody know to come and watch so we can discuss it together. All right. So you guys want to go ahead and jump in. They named this episode very well. The pawn goes first, because there was a lot of pawning going on. Whether you mean that literally or figuratively. But you know, the big event is Bumpy's club has opened. Club St. Clair, his, pride and joy is on and popping. It's beautiful. All of the heavy hitters are in the building, and Frank comes up in there, flashy, showing off in his chinchilla, looking, dressed to the nines, got his arm candy, and he's just, catching attention in ways that I don't think he wanted. So, of course, Colombo spots him, Bumpy spots him, everybody talking about this jacket he got on. But, Colombo said himself, he was like, you must be selling for somebody again. And that's the type of a negative attention that, I was saying they might bring. Bumpy straight up clowned his jacket. He was like, chinchilla's a rodent.
I love it.
Yeah, it was hilarious. But Frank, he's new to the game, and I think he even said at this episode he ain't never had nothing, so he was trying to show off a little bit.
And he's country.
Yeah. Well, up in the big city, they got a lot more threads and options.
He said something to Stella that kind of softened my thought about him, because I think it is true. He said to Stella that when you've never had anything, you oftentimes want to take a second or a moment to show off, to show what you got. So I understood that. Not that I'm a show off, but I understood where he was coming from.
Yeah, I mean, but unfortunately for him, it cost him his girl. Yeah, because we seen how that Fat Joe cameo. And I was like, I wonder if he was somebody that was on Columbo's team that kind of like was there to distract Frank, or if he was just an innocent passerby that just happened to get caught up in the mix. But we do know Colombo was behind it ultimately. And the car blew up with Frank's girlfriend in it, and he was torn up about that. He was hot. And that's when he goes and has that conversation with Stella, and we find out that Frank has been selling for her in Philly. So I was like, okay, that might not have been the best moves. They keep cutting the families out. That nothing good can come from that.
Right. And then you're being hot too, or wearing chinchilla coats, or drawing attention to yourself. They don't like that. The young lady, the girlfriend, we keep talking about her, that's Aisha from Raising Canaan. And he had her laced down to the nine with jewelry and everything. And I said, I should have known that this wasn't going to end well.
I think they said her name was Monique. I think her name was Monique. He's probably
on the show. Yeah.
I think he was probably off. He couldn't get that coat back. Couldn't take that coat back if he needed to. I'm just joking. A joke.
Oh Lord! But I think what you were saying about the Fat Joe cameo, I think that little that was literally somebody who bumped into on the street. I mean, that was a homie.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he did stop him because that would have been him in the car
Yeah.
with her.
Yeah. So you got lucky. Again,
Yeah.
lucky. Like I said,
Yeah. Ron always says he's
the man
lucky.
is full of luck, I mean, even Colombo said it. What kind of guy that can, dodge the family and dodge
Bumpy.
a house hit like he had. Remember
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
came in into his place and was going to blow him away. Dodges it all. So I was right when I said the man is lucky. He is lucky, and that luck was
Yeah.
on top of his shoulders. I mean, it's not going anywhere. And again,
Well, the crazy thing is that, yeah, I was gonna say that wasn't even the only attempt at his life. There was a second attempt, where they used his landlord to come up in there and pose and in front of the actual assassin. And so Frank ends up having to kill that guy. Thank goodness he, got some physical strength, because I'm like, that guy that came up in there, he was pretty swift. I thought it was looking kind of bleak for him for a second.
But he's scrappy. He's a scrappy dude.
And he carries a knife and knows how to use it. So,
Yep.
So,
yeah,
he had all the elements with him, but yeah, it's just pure luck that no matter what situation he gets into, he's able to get out of it. So,
yeah.
Tiffany and I have about him all the time. She says he's not stupid. I said, I have to admit that this episode showed me some intelligence about him. I'm not giving it 100%, so but I still think he's a fool because he just does foolish things. And
I'll give you that. I'll concede that point. He does foolish things. He does, and he can be impetuous and stuff, and but I don't think that he's a stupid guy and stuff. A lot of the reasons why, like you said, he's been fortunate to evade capture on several occasions and stuff. But I think that he thinks on his feet.
Okay, he's good.
And stuff too. Yeah, he thinks on his feet and stuff. And I think that's some of the things, like, as much as Bumpy probably didn't want to like him, he probably does remind him of himself, because Bumpy is a Southern guy at heart. He came from South Carolina and stuff, and rose up through the ranks and became a boss. So he probably does remind him of himself.
Yeah, I think the smartest thing Frank did this episode was go to Bumpy and apologize.
Exactly.
And Bumpy, that really won him some points. And when he said, I still don't trust you, but I at least respect you for humbling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of fools I know live on Stupid Street. So
hey, but I know that too.
But Bumpy, yeah, I have to admit, I was, well, let me say, I was glad to see how Bumpy's relationship with Frank can now go forward in this. So, because as you said, T, Bumpy respected the fact that he came back and humbled himself. And not just that, but his persistence, I think, is what really captivates Bumpy, because he's very persistent, at least in what he wants. And I think that more so than anything reminds Bumpy of himself, because you have to be persistent in this game to get what to get what you're going to get out of this game. It's just a treacherous game. You can't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
Yeah, and Frank, I think he knows how to seize opportunity, because Stella told him there was a 10K hit on his head, and she was basically like, you need to get out of town. And he initially went into the pawn shop to pawn his chinchilla fur to get some money to get out of town. But opportunity presented itself. The pawn shop owner was working on his own deal. He was trying to get that coat for free, basically. And he was like, all you had to do was give up a little information, and there's a bigger hit that you can go after. So the pawn shop owner ends up giving up the location where Mayme pawned her jewelry. And Frank ends up going over to that pawn shop and robbing the place. But Frank sees the opportunity, because I think that he figured if he really wants to stay in town, if he wants to win Bumpy over, he's going to need a grand gesture.
I didn't see he playing that big a chess game. I think what Bumpy was trying to teach him, as we saw in the end, what chess is all about and what life is all about.
Uh-huh.
2 to 3 moves ahead. I think he's too country to have known that. I think what happened here
Mhm.
when he robbed the jewelry store, what I think is it gave him yet another opportunity. And as Tiffany said, and I have to admit in this particular episode, he showed an ounce of intelligence by he got shot, no place else to go. So what does he do? He goes to Bumpy and says, "Hey, I got your wife's jewelry back." And that played big with Bumpy. Whether it's true or not, that played very, very big with Bumpy. So once again, we see how the devil just can't put his hands on Luke Frank right at this point because whatever happens to Frank, Frank seems to find a way to wiggle out of it.
But I do think he meant to do that. I think what he and Chance talked about when Chance was in captivity, and Chance told him because he said, Frank said to him, "I don't think that Bumpy will give me another chance," and Chance said he will, and he talked about his own experience. So I think he knew, as you said, that it had to be a grand gesture, and getting his wife's jewelry back is a grand gesture. And
Yeah.
he got shot in the process.
Well, yeah, I mean that
Yep.
would have been a great motivation to go to Bumpy and with your stash in hand. It's to be argued, and I don't want to sit here and spend an inordinate amount of time doing so. I think, and either way, we're both saying the same thing. We just have a different. You go left.
Different opinion of him.
Yeah. So my opinion with Frank is that at this point, I have to say I'm neutral. I'm not going to
Yeah.
call him stupid anymore. I'm gonna clear that up. So I'm neutral with Frank, um, but I think that there was a lot. Let's put it this way: there was a lot of lessons for him to learn.
Uh-huh.
So, and judging from the end, it looks like maybe perhaps he's learning his lesson.
I thought, going back to the title of this episode, pawning, uh, it didn't just refer to the pawn shop and everything. It
Mhm.
it referred to the pawn, the chess game,
Yeah,
and everything too. So I just thought it was appropriately titled.
definitely. I absolutely.
Yeah.
And
And I think Frank said he was tired of running too. I
yeah,
think that's why he conceded to Bumpy because he talked about his dad always being on the run. I think he said, "I'm tired. I don't want to live that life."
yeah.
So
Right.
And
seems like things worked out for him.
Bumpy showed to him the pawn is the weakest one on the board. And is that what you want to be? You want to be a pawn?
Exactly.
So again, I mean, he's learned a heavy lesson this episode. So I can't wait to see what else comes up because I have to, I guess, give Frank a break. He's
He said that
Well,
begrudgingly.
I wish.
yeah, I was
Well,
about to say you don't sound like you want to say it.
Yeah, I was
But
going
no,
to say, you're
look,
entitled to your opinion.
yes, I agree, but and my opinion has now been shaken by this episode, but I still somewhere in my heart of hearts or my faculties, I see this dumb country boy that just won't get it. But as I said, I'm relinquishing that thought right now. And as far as I'm concerned, he just lives on Stupid Street. He's done some foolish things, but he just lives on Stupid Street. So
He has. He has.
he has. I think we're seeing the transformation because he's going to have to wisen up real quick if he's going to continue to survive.
yeah,
So he got to make some real quick moves and quick and think ahead. And like Bumpy said, be a chess player.
yeah.
And speaking of pawning, we talked about Frank pawn and stuff, but we mentioned Mayme a little bit. She had her own dilemma with the ladies on the board. Of course, they up in Bumpy's club having a good old time. And then they tell her that in order to be on the board, she would have to pay $100K. It's basically a one-time fee. And I'm sitting up here like, wait, now y'all made her do all this stuff. Y'all made her go through all of this things trying to get what's his name to read poetry to y'all
James
and do
Baldwin.
everything that James, yeah. And I'm like, that was a big ass. Like, he's a popular person. It probably took some pulling some strings and stuff. Like, she made stuff happen.
Yeah,
and
she
you
did.
couldn't tell her up front. You should have told her up front what the fees were going to be. Now, I'm thinking exactly on the lines of what Bumpy said. This is extortion. Y'all are trying
That's
to
what I think.
pull.
That's exactly what I think.
And then dangling the carrot.
Exactly.
Dangling the carrot.
Yep.
I feel like there was no 100,000 membership fee. I think it was 100,000 membership fee for her.
Exactly.
If it was another
yeah.
board member, if it was another board member that they were trying to invite, maybe a white woman, there probably would have been no fee. And I just at that point for Mayme, I was like, man, Mayme really wants this. I was just like, and we always knew that, but I was like, I might have been like, F y'all board. Like,
exactly.
Done.
I mean, and this is what I guess this is what has bothered me about Mayme, because I've talked about her, and I'm going to talk about her some more at this point, because your own daughter, when the African American museum, and you were seeing this stuff, and your daughter was saying how wonderful it is, and you, Mayme, says, well, we have to put it out on a bigger platform, and she's saying, well, why can't we do it here? So if you're going to pay $100,000 to sit on this white, I can't say what I really want to say on this channel, but if you're going to sit up and sit on their board when they really don't want you, they want your money and they want your whatever you can get out, whatever they can get out from you. You could take that $100,000 and do something with the African American museum that you have, instead of just wanting to be around these white folks all the time.
But it's not just that though. She wants to.
I know that's what she
wants to.
I know
she wants to put Black artists.
Okay,
on
but you know what? For the $100,000 back then, you could have done a lot for a lot of Black artists. Okay,
right.
You don't need to sit on a white board that really don't want you there, except for your money and whatever else they can seep out of you. If you want to do something, take that $100,000 and do something. That's my point. But no.
Yeah,
because they're stripping everything from her to get on that board. They're stripping money,
even
her dignity, her name.
I mean, come on, please.
Yeah, they're making some really big asks of her.
Yeah,
and it's like to sit up there and tell her that.
That's not even an ask.
Well, I mean,
they demanded that. They demanded to strip her down. And aren't we tired?
That's what I said too, because that's your identity too, and it's like, it's a slap in the face to your husband and everything, and you are one. So I don't know. That definitely would have been. I wouldn't have paid that fine. That probably would have been the end of it for me, especially for you to say, you want me to use my maiden name, so you want me to reject my husband's name and stuff like that. No, I probably would,
especially after y'all just set up in there, kikiing all up in this club like everything's all good. If my husband is so disgraceful to y'all, why are y'all even in his establishment? Why even bother?
There you go.
And so that kind of ticked me off. And then the other thing is, they keep making these ads. It's like, when does it stop? And so that's my thing. They've already made all of these big major asks of you. What are they going to do next? First it's the 100K. Then first it was James Baldwin. Then it was the 100K. Then it's the name change. What's next? It's like they're going to keep asking. And my thing is, Mayme doesn't offer a lot of pushback.
No.
Right.
So I didn't like that.
No, I didn't like that either. That's what's taking everything from her.
And yes, I in some respects I believe that Mayme is doing it to showcase these Black artists, but I think the bigger picture for her is just being a part of this association of white people that she just needs to have. She needs to have that association because she wants to be
accepted
above the fray and accepted. Yes. And my thing is, if you have the facilities and the money and the time, then go do something. Do something like Bumpy did. Bumpy took a lot of pain to try to redevelop Harlem so that Black people can have something. He was forced to deal with the Italians because of they own the very tools and assets that it takes to build these things. So he was forced to do that. But by no means would he have uh, uh, without consciousness, just wanted to join the Italians for the sake of being a part of something. And
Mhm.
I only fault Bumpy for not sitting her down and having a more fervent conversation with her about your attitude and your position with these white folks.
I kind of felt that way this episode too, because I kind of felt like I just felt like what a slap in his face to reject his name for the sake of this board, and then to pawn the jewelry that he bought for her and things. And I was like,
Yeah.
and he still showed a lot of grace towards her, which shows how much he really loves her. And she him, and you could tell she felt bad later because she was, she was sorrowful and crying and everything like that and stuff, and probably ashamed that she had done that. But I wish, that like you, that there was a conversation that he had. I mean, he didn't have to like,
You're not
smack her up, beat her up with his,
no.
his words and everything. He didn't have to be, but I think I wish he would have told her like how much that kind of like disappointed or hurt him.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and I think
No, go
no,
ahead.
I was going to say I think that Mayme, it's interesting how she realizes how much Margaret is growing up too, but she also kind of rejects some of her thoughts and ideas, and we know that Margaret has been heavily influenced by Elise, and she's a little bit of a rebel. But when she projects onto her, she's like, "Oh, make sure you don't ever need a man's money for anything and stuff like that." And I was like, "You missing the whole point, Mamie." She missed the mark for me this episode.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, but for me, it's been several episodes. She's been missing the mark to
No,
tell
I hear you. I
to
mean, I
tell
don't.
Margaret that I mean to tell Margaret that you don't need a man. See, this is the problem that we have, and this is what breaks our family tradition, our family responsibilities. When a woman is told that you don't need a man. No, I want my daughter to grow up and be independent and be able to take care of herself.
I
Absolutely.
think that's the message. I think that's
But,
the message she was really trying to say.
but don't really try to say it. Say
But
it.
the way it
Yeah,
came off
Yeah,
in the moment
yeah,
too,
that's
yeah,
the
it was
problem.
yeah.
like
Right,
it could
right.
have been.
Yeah, she should have said. She should have said that
Exactly.
instead.
Right.
I want you to be an independent woman, even if you're with a man and
Even
stuff.
whether you,
Still be independent, and that's how she probably should have verbalized that. And I
yeah.
think that's what she meant, but it didn't come off that way.
Well, no, and to Margaret, she's going to take what she hears. She's not going to be able to, exercise that into, well, she really meant this. No, she meant what she said. And, you know, Bumpy, I have to give it to you, brother, because if that was my wife, she'd have an E and an X for her name. I'm telling you, not luck. I'm saying. I'm saying. I'm just saying. Okay.
Not an E and an X.
Right. And an X, yes. Mhm. Those,
Well, I get that the jewelry was very rare stuff too. Like I know she's not necessarily tied to it like that, but it is stuff that your husband bought specifically for you, and it's like that was a low blow in that to Bumpy, like just disrespect. And I know she didn't want to ask him for, and when she did, at least I'm sorry, Margaret outed her to Bumpy, and that's when she kind of told her the situation. And Bumpy said, "Not right now. The club just opened, and I'm, still trying to get things to break even or whatnot." And then she went to the bankers, and the banker straight up told her no.
and that
So,
right there
I
should have
think
told us.
that it was good that she tried to do things her own way first before going to Bumpy. But the pawning of the jewelry it was so over the top. And it was like, you're willing to give up all of this. You're willing to sacrifice your name, your marriage, like everything about you just for your association with these people.
And it
Yeah,
wasn't until the late 70s that banks and institutions,
I was great. Go there.
yeah, that they turned around. And yes, it's wrong to disassociate a person's financial capabilities just because of the fact she's a woman. Hell, that's wrong.
Right,
Yes,
right.
and they were just as wrong for that. And I mean, I'm just as angry about that she would even have to kowtow to that level and be treated the way she was because she's a woman? I mean, come on. So I understand her passion in telling Margaret to be an independent woman. I can understand that, but we can't lose sight on who we are and whose we are and what we need to
Yep.
do to come
Amen.
together and
Amen.
what we need to be. And
Amen.
so often today, even we get trapped into that same type. We even I hear it all the time with these young women, that they don't need a man. Really? You're raising a grown boy, and you don't need
Uh-huh. Right.
a strong man
Right.
or somebody.
Right. Right.
You don't
Right.
need a fool. You don't need somebody who can't help you, but you damn sure need a man. I don't give that title to just the fact that you are male. To me,
Right.
prove
Right.
something to be a man. Just go.
Right.
No, no,
Mm.
don't let me go. Look, let me stop. I'm about to get on my.
Ron, you know what?
Do
You
it.
usually
Ron
real
X.
controversial with your takes. I was about to say you can sometimes you get controversial. I think this might be the first time we are all on board for one of your
Yeah. Yeah,
controversial
no,
takes.
because he was going down the path I was getting ready to go.
Yes.
Because I was gonna say that about the fact that Mayme with the jewelry and everything and how and you said it, T, about her sacrificing everything for this board. But it made me think about what Ron said, because I was talking to my aunt, you know, um, and she told me about, she was like, Tiffany, during my time, you know, we couldn't get loans. Like women couldn't get loans. And she said, and if you were married and you were working, you had to give your check to the husband. And she was telling me about all these things that women had to do before now and stuff. So that's another reason why I think Mamie said what she said and why she was frustrated when she said that to Margaret, because during that time, you see, she couldn't get a loan. You know, they were like, like, where's your husband? The way she was being treated. And I think that's part of the reason why she resorted to the level that she did and went to the pawn shop. Even I don't think that board was worthy of that. I think at that point she was desperate and felt like that was her only option.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate, but I think that hopefully, things smooth over with this board and they don't ask any more of her. I hope she can get the influence and the outcome that she's desiring without having to give up any more money or of herself and her identity. So that remains to be seen.
That board is that entire board is on my hands list.
And she was.
Oh yeah.
She's on my
her too.
Yeah. She's gonna be on my hands list until she wakes up. That's all. All I want you to do is wake up. That's all.
Wake up.
Wake up.
Well, so I want to move on and talk about Columbo now because he got some mess going on himself. He's in the FBI's radar. They bust up into his spot and they are investigating him, saying he's doing all kind of illegal things with his car parts, and they're really after him for some of these murders that have been happening, but they just don't have nothing solid to really go after him for. And so Colombo is pissed. First of all, he's looking at the paper after Bumpy's grand opening of the club, and he sees how he's being portrayed, and he claims that he looks like a criminal in the newspaper. Everybody else is, shown smiling and being painted in a very positive light. And he's like, they're painting me as the criminal or whatever. And so he's basically asking his lawyer, like, to intervene or what should I do? And the lawyer suggests, maybe you do something to push back against the ADA. And Colombo comes with the idea that, I'm going to get one of my guys to, let him know that I know where you live. I know your family. I got your daughter. You can be touched. And that didn't work out so well.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious because I was like, now he was treated how brothers are treated. He got the same treatment, and he's having the same gripes about how wanting to give his own civil rights talk and all this stuff. He got the same beat down that the brothers get.
Again,
yeah.
He is a pawn when it comes down to government agencies, FBI, CIA, you're just a pawn. You are there doing what you do because they want you there doing that. If you don't think that your government gets a piece of that pie, then you need to come to school. That you're not there just because of your own strength. And then when he goes up to Bumpy and wants to compare the Italian, uh, uh,
Laughable.
yeah, it was quite laughable. And Bumpy, as always, had to go to school and teach the school something. But at least he came back. He came out with, oh, maybe I do have to change my way of delivery because kidnapping the girl and then bringing her home and then saying have Colombo to thank. What did you think would happen to you, fool?
Listen, I was
You lucky
glad
you didn't
He
get
thought
shot.
they were going
They should have just shot you and they wouldn't have had to worry about you because if you were black, you probably would have been beaten up and shot. So
would have got shot.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I was glad that DA didn't capitulate because you know some are
Oh
scared
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's
and
true.
they're like, oh, you know, my family, let me put them here and stuff like that. And I was curious. I said, I wonder how he gonna handle it. Is he gonna punk out
Mhm.
and stuff and back off,
Mhm.
or is he gonna stand on business? And he
Mhm.
stood on business. He
Yep,
stood on
he stood
business.
all
I wasn't
10
mad at him.
toes down.
I wasn't mad
10
at him at
toes
all.
and 10 toes
I
on
was
back.
cracking up when they got their butts whooped.
Got with a baton. You know what's in the middle of a baton? It's
I
it's
don't know. I have never been on the other side of one. So
no, it's steel. It's not just the wood. So when you get hit with that bad boy, you're getting hit with something.
oh
So
yeah.
so but like I said, you're Italian, so you didn't get shot in the head after the beatdown. So you got lucky there. But now,
Yeah, I left for the street though.
yeah, he did, and he should have. Uh,
Yeah.
that was such a foolish move. But then again, now what do we got? He's in there preaching the word and trying to talk about how politically uncorrect uh, um, the government is with Italians.
The, mhm.
And guess what? They don't like that.
They tried to flip the civil rights.
Mhm.
Look, tried to steal the
Yeah,
civil
flip the
rights.
script. Hmm.
And have
Mhm.
its own civil rights talk.
But now the Italians don't like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say the thing is he's thinking he's rallying the troops and trying to build support for this civil rights movement of his. But meanwhile, the ADA is getting a call from the higher ups, and he's like, "Look, they making us look bad. You got to do something." So this is going to lead to a bigger attempt to take him down. So he just put the target on his back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't
So
wait.
Colombo might be in the Bing soon.
Or someplace
Or
else.
worse.
Or
Or
worse.
worse. Uh-huh.
Yeah, they not playing with him.
Nah.
I mean, well, hey, you get what you get. So
Yep.
Mm-hmm. One of the last topics I want to mention for this episode was with Elise and Sadiq. Sadiq is still sharing information with Elise about his son who is in Vietnam fighting the war. And I thought it was really sweet how Elise kind of sat down with him and helped him to, compose his thoughts and put together something thoughtful to send back to his son. And they even vibed a little bit and got a little kissy. And I was like, okay, Miss Elise, keep a man Johnson.
Yes. So
So
long, Omar.
with a man.
Omar in the real view, like
Yeah,
for
she
real.
left Omar in the dust.
yeah.
Milkshake, bring all the boys to the yard.
For real.
Oh.
For real. I'm like, she keeps a man.
Yeah.
And through her penning of this letter for Sadiq, it actually makes her come to a realization about her own relationship with her father. And so she starts writing a letter to Bumpy as well, talking about their relationship and how she feels it's distant. And they really do have a common goal of wanting to achieve Malcolm's mission. They're just going about it different ways. And she's just asking for him to basically be proud of her and let's try to figure out a way where we can achieve this mission together. So I thought that was I think she owes that a little bit to Bumpy because the way that she left, it wasn't on the best terms. And I know that he gave her an ultimatum. But I don't think it's enough to tear up their bond. I think that, some more communication is definitely needed between those two.
Yeah, he loves her. Now.
I see in the future episodes them coming together again.
Oh, they will.
And working on something.
They
But
will.
I think that we can have a dichotomy when it comes to how we get ourselves together. And that dichotomy being Bumpy has a way, she has a way. Malcolm X has a way, had a way, Martin Luther King had a way. The problem that I think destroyed us is the tearing apart and separating those two ways. You have in martial arts, particularly in Kung Fu, you have, I don't know, you may have seen the sign. It looks like a little teardrop that's inverted on top of itself. One's white and the other one's black. Well, they represent the soft side and the strong side. And they come together that way because that's the way the martial art is taught. So, you're usually kung fu is not an attack kind of mode. You sit back and you use your opponent's strength and against him. And we could have had that very same thing with those two different modes between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. They didn't all have to be kumbaya. And the same way with Bumpy and Elise. Um, I think Bumpy owes her a sit down to say, hey, I, I appreciate you. I accept what you are, who you are, and you go do you, and let me do me, and let's see if there's uh, a center ground that we can come together and do together. It doesn't be all me, all you, and that's always been our problem.
Yeah.
Well, truth be told,
barrel.
yeah, I was going to say, truth be told, though, Elise's way and Bumpy's way is actually the same.
Exactly. Really.
Elise is taking notes from Bumpy. She's been taking notes. She's been picking up on all the things he's doing. So they're doing the same type of things. It's just that Bumpy doesn't want her in the trenches, getting dirty and, possibly getting involved in legal troubles and stuff like that. It's dangerous. Killed. So I think that, I was just going to say, I think that's what Bumpy's pushback comes from. It comes from a place of love, and I don't want to see you get hurt.
Right.
But really their techniques and their thought processes are exactly the same.
Yin and yang. That's true.
Yeah, so I think they have a lot more common ground than they want to realize. Sometimes when you have your parents, it's hard for you to admit how much like your parents you really are.
Yeah.
And for the parent to admit how much your child is like you.
Is like you. Yep. That's true.
Yeah.
And so, and it's a realization that when you come to, you have to just sit back. I experienced it 100%. So, you just have to sit back and accept it and say, okay, well, young man or young lady, let me sit down and explain some things to you. And hopefully, things will work out. But I love this show. I love where we're going with it. I'm going to be extremely upset when this is all over because this is one of the shows that we can really talk about, not just history, but not what we've come to know, but where we're going. What and so it really gives us that.
Yeah.
So, I really love this episode more so than I think I have. We've had some good ones, but I really love this.
I'm never.
Yeah, this was a standout.
Yeah.
It got me fired.
Yeah. So, well, we briefly kind of mentioned some of the people who we would put on the hands list, namely Alice and the board of directors for that art museum.
Yeah.
They can all get the hands. I think we agreed that Mayme can get the hands for this episode.
Yep.
Any other nominees?
Columbo.
Yeah. I'm going to say Colombo for pulling that trick. But
Colombo got the hands.
He got the hands and the tongue.
Yeah, I was going to give Frank, but I'm giving Frank a respite.
Yeah.
He seems to have done some things this episode to perhaps make things a little
redeem himself.
Yeah, okay. I'll give you that.
Borderline want to give the hands to the landlord because I'm like, you was really gonna let these people line me up? I understand his
Hey,
life was threatened, but I was
hey,
like, dang.
hey, look, I mean, you know,
Yeah,
I
they did.
think
They
that,
probably had the gun to his back.
He was
yeah. Well, and I think,
yeah. I get he was in a tough spot.
yeah, and I think Frank recognized that too. I mean, hey, buddy, it's your life and mine. If I got anything to do with it, I'm coming out of this scot free. So he did what he had
Right,
to do. I mean, I don't know how you not do that, but
right.
you know, but hey, all
Yeah,
it's
Frank,
for good.
I'm surprised Frank threw him a little extra rent money or whatever. I would have been like, look, you the reason that I got to clean this dead body up right now. I'm not paying this money.
Well, I like I said, I think
But
he,
the landlord could be like, look, you bringing trouble to my rental spot.
yeah,
Because, like, at the end of the day, this dude came here looking for you.
you
And
exactly.
you messing up my place
You
of
gonna say
business.
that to somebody who just stabbed the man up in front of you?
No, that's why
No,
you
no,
take the
Frank told
money
him
to run.
he might need to go. Right. He might need to go. He don't have to be there. Look, when Frank is not there, he can leave him an eviction notice.
Which, by the way, no, I think he did just right. Take that money and get yourself on out of there. Because
And
Right.
go.
Frank said, unless you know how to get rid of a body, you need to get up out of
You need
here.
to get up out of here.
And I think Frank gave him the money, and I think Frank understood he had no choice. I mean,
Right.
you know,
Right.
it's not like he did it strictly under duress. So
Yeah, he
he didn't have
did.
a choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, do we have a nominee for the game ball?
Oh,
I'm gonna give it to Frank for getting
I'm,
the jury back.
well,
Getting the
I
jury
was
back.
gonna say, I'm as much as I know Ron not gonna like this.
Ron
Frank
don't want to.
came
He don't want
through.
to relinquish nothing to Frank, but
look,
Frank did get the jury back. Took a bullet in the process
it,
and got it. You know,
it,
he
I
did. He
if
did.
if for some reason I can see that that was his initial thought before even going, that I'm
Right.
going
But you don't. You're not a reader of hearts and stuff. And it's not like how you know his intent though. You
well, that's
don't.
why I say I don't know his intent.
Right.
So I'm not going to assume that that was his intent. See, if it were his intent to go and
He
do
did
that,
it. His
no,
action
he
was.
his actions were culminated by a circumstance. So what I'm saying is, if it was his intent to do so, then absolutely. But I believe that what happened was uh,
You think it was a fluke?
a
You think
series
it,
of circumstances which caused him to come to a conclusion, which was to go to Bumpy and do the right thing. See, so
uh-huh.
that's what I'm saying.
Look, I told you, Frank knows how to seize the moment.
Yep.
He's a
Yep.
little bit of
He
an
does.
opportunist.
I can't
Yeah.
argue with that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and in doing so, that's why I said he's no longer a stupid person to me. He just lives on.
I told you he wasn't
Okay,
stupid.
okay.
He
Right.
was foolish, but he wasn't stupid for real.
Yeah, well, he,
Yeah. I
well,
mean, if it wasn't for the fact that he came back and apologized, I could have mistaken his actions as strictly opportunistic.
Opportunistic.
But,
Yeah.
but the fact that he was very sincere in wanting that protection and wanting to make amends with Bumpy helped,
Mm-hmm.
the process. So I was like, okay,
like I
you're an
said,
But
opportunist, but at least you got
like
a good motive.
like I said,
right. And I get what you're saying, Ron, because he did have look. He ain't had no place to go. He was cornered because even Stella was like, I can't help
can't help
you,
you.
and stuff. So he really was on his own.
Literally. I mean, and
Mm-hmm.
he could have taken, I don't know what a bus ticket back home would have cost, but for that chinchilla coat, he could have taken a few dollars just to go home and say, hey, to hell with everything. But but once he got that information, here again, showing his wittiness, I'll give him that. He was able to grab some information and ultimately use it to his benefit. So hey, I'm all Frank for now. I gotta go find somebody else to deal with.
Okay,
Tell you
so
what,
we can agree, Frank.
yeah,
Go
Frank.
ahead,
But I
Tiff.
was going to say, if Frank was on some grimy stuff and was intending to take the jewelry and sell it or whatever and everything, that pawn shop owner would have been really in trouble with Bumpy because he know
Mm-hmm.
Bumpy and he know Bumpy's people and stuff. So I think he would know better not to, I don't know.
Well, I mean, the stuff is already out of his shop, so and truth be told, he's the one that told Frank where to go to get it. So you know.
Right.
You
But
know
I'm
what?
just saying.
Now that you say that, I think I want to put the pawn shop owner on the list for the who can get the hands. Because I'm
'Cause
like,
I'm
why
like,
would you share that information?
That's true.
that's what I said. Why you share that to him? Like, are you telling him to rob?
That's
Rob, that's what I'm saying. Was he telling him because that pawn shop guy knows them too? Because wasn't he talking to Pettigrew
exactly.
before and stuff? So I'm
Yep.
saying he knows Bumpy and Bumpy's people, and you know the stuff that Bumpy bought Mayme is expensive and possibly rare.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
even if Frank had grabbed it and tried to fence it and stuff, somebody might have recognized whatever. It probably would have got back to Bumpy anyway. So I just thought that was interesting that dude told Frank to do that.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. That was a little greedy of him as the owner, you know. So I was like, you know what? He can get the hands for that.
Yeah.
So,
There's room. Let's put him up there.
Yep.
and I want to give an honorable mention for Game Ball to Margaret. You know, she had to put Mamie out of her misery and just go ahead and out her. And I was like, okay, Margaret, come through. She was like, I know Margaret was tired of listening to Mamie going on and on about this, all the trouble she having scraping up this money. Let me just put her out of misery and tell Bumpy.
Right. But Daddy, Mommy need help. Shoot.
And I give it to Elise for helping what's his name?
Sadiq.
Yeah, I give it to her. She showed a lot of compassion, and as you all said, she knows how to get a man and when she needs one. So,
man, what's it? Elise Keep a Man Johnson. Right. That's what I'm calling her.
Milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
Yeah, well, this was a really good one. I think we all thoroughly enjoyed it. To all the viewers out there, thank you for watching. Please make sure you drop down in the comment section and give us your thoughts on this episode, as well as any predictions that you have for future episodes. Also, be sure to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and click that notification bell. You never know when we might have something special coming your way. Also, follow us on all social media platforms at The Spot Real Talk, and spread the word far and wide to all your friends, your families, your cousins. I know it's Memorial Day weekend. Y'all gonna be having some cookouts and stuff. Let everybody at the cookout know they need to subscribe to The Spot Real Talk.
Even
Tiff, Ron, y'all got anything else?
No. That's funny.
Indeed.
All right, y'all. Well, it's been a lot of fun. We'll see you guys next week when we come back to talk about episode 8 of Godfather of Harlem. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
I'm just gonna trust what you're saying. You never planned. Kid through the valley, we walk through the fire. Your grace is amazing. I trust what you're saying. You never planned. I know that you work every trial. Feel good if I stay and be patient. I'm just gonna trust what you're saying.